Avengers Doomsday just received what might be the biggest leak of the entire multiverse saga, and involves something fans have been whispering about for months: how Robert Downey Jr. actually becomes Doctor Doom inside the MCU timeline. And according to early leak reports, insider notes, and production whispers, this transformation is not just a cameo, not just a variant, and definitely not a simple return. It's a full narrative arc, something Marvel has been quietly building behind the scenes long before anyone realized it. The first wave of leaks started in private Discord servers run by well-known superhero insiders who claimed that Marvel had been experimenting with a Doom-Tony hybrid concept since 2022. At the time, most people brushed it off as fan fiction. But now, with Avengers Doomsday filming-related documents surfacing in new artwork reportedly tied to Marvel's internal presentation decks, the idea suddenly feels way more real. According to one of these insiders, RDJ's Doom is not a rehash of the classic comic version. He's not a Latvian scientist who grew up in the shadows. Instead, he is described as a Tony Stark variant who survived an incursion, a universe-ending collision between realities that was mentioned in Multiverse of Madness. This variant didn't die in the snap, didn't retire, and didn't settle down. He witnessed his entire reality collapse, and after losing everything, including his identity, he rebuilt himself around a single idea: absolute control. Another insider leak, which supposedly came from someone who viewed early visual tests, described a scene showing a masked, heavily armored figure with a shattered arc reactor embedded in his chest. The footage reportedly showed the arc reactor glowing green, not blue, hinting at a fusion of Stark technology and dark mystical energy. The description emphasized that the armor did not look like Iron Man's, but also not exactly like the classical Doom suit. Something in between. Something new. Something dangerous. The biggest twist in the leaks is that this version of RDJ doesn't start as an outright villain. According to reports, he begins as a survivor who genuinely believes that the multiverse can only be saved through his control. After watching numerous timelines crumble, this variant Stark comes to the conclusion that free will, heroes making their own choices, inevitably leads to destruction. And this belief slowly transforms into the ideology that fans will recognize as Doctor Doom's desire for order at any cost. There's also a supposed connection to the TVA. Some sources claim that RDJ's variant had brief interactions with early TVA operatives before going rogue. According to these leaks, the TVA labeled him as a multiversal destabilizer, someone who was attempting to interfere with timeline events using both advanced technology and forbidden mystic practices. If this is true, it would mean RDJ's Doom is not just another variant. He is a threat that predates Kang's collapse, someone who had been operating in the shadows long before the multiverse started breaking publicly. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence comes from an alleged production note that leaked 2 months ago. It stated simply, "Doom believed the multiverse must be led, not saved." This line, if real, captures the entire philosophy behind RDJ's Doom. Unlike Tony Stark, who believed in heroism through sacrifice, this variant Stark becomes a ruler shaped by loss, trauma, and cosmic inevitability. And all of these leaks together paint a very clear picture. Robert Downey Jr. isn't returning as Tony. He's returning as something more complex, more broken, and far more dangerous. A Tony Stark who saw the multiverse fall apart and decided to rebuild it in his own image. If Part 1 explained how Robert Downey Jr.'s variant becomes Doctor Doom, Part 2 dives into why this transformation happens. And according to the latest insider conversations and a few suspiciously detailed leak threads, this variant Tony Stark didn't turn into Doom because of ego, madness, or a lust for power. He turned into Doom because of something far more tragic. Something he witnessed across multiple collapsing universes. Several insiders, including a former concept artist who claims to have worked on early pitch decks, described a shocking piece of visual material. A Tony Stark variant standing on the edge of a broken Earth, watching fragmented continents fall into cosmic void. According to the description, this scene was meant to represent Tony's first incursion trauma. His universe didn't simply lose a war or suffer an alien invasion. It was erased, consumed in an event he had no power to stop. For a man whose identity was built around fixing what others can't, the destruction of his entire reality was the kind of wound that never heals. Another wave of leaks suggests that this Tony variant didn't just witness one collapse. Supposedly, he discovered a way to observe other timelines, and what he saw was a pattern. Heroes fighting, losing, winning, dying, sacrificing, only for the next universe to fall in the exact same way. Chaos repeating endlessly, with no permanent solution. According to one insider, the variant recorded these collapses and classified them as predictable failures of free will-based universes. At this point, his transformation begins to make sense. The man who always believed in creating solutions, suits, technologies, protocols, finally reached a conclusion that no Tony Stark in the main MCU would dare to accept. If the multiverse is broken, then someone must take control. This belief is at the core of Doom's philosophy, and Tony, after witnessing countless failures, embraced it fully. One of the most controversial leaks appeared in a private server run by movie scoopers. It claimed that this Tony variant made early attempts to collaborate with an unknown cosmic entity, possibly linked to the energies we associate with Doom in the comics. There were mentions of forbidden knowledge, dimensional studies, and a fractured suit test, where the armor he wears literally fuses with mystic energy. If true, that means the iconic Doom armor isn't Latvian metal. It's a corrupted Iron Man suit mutated by cosmic power. Another insider report suggests that Tony's turn toward Doom begins after he tries and fails to prevent 3 separate incursion events in neighboring universes. According to the leak, he uses technology similar to the time-space GPS from Endgame, but on a cosmic scale. And every time he tries to intervene, he only accelerates the destruction. The burden of these failures shapes his new ideology. White heavy checkmark, the multiverse shouldn't be protected. White heavy checkmark, it should be controlled. White heavy checkmark, and everything must follow a single vision. This is where Doom is born. But the darkest part of the leak comes next. According to an alleged phase outline document, Tony's variant reaches a conclusion that heroes are the problem. Their individuality, their compassion, their disagreements, their mistakes, all lead to universal collapse. In one supposedly leaked line of dialogue, Doom says, "Every universe falls because every universe believes in choice." That single line explains everything. It reveals why this variant becomes the opposite of Tony Stark from Earth 616. Tony believed in sacrifice. Doom believes in inevitability. Tony built suits to protect the world. Doom builds worlds to obey him. And according to the leaks, once this variant accepts that only absolute control can save existence, he abandons the name Tony Stark entirely. The arc reactor becomes green. The armor becomes a shell. His face becomes a mask. His compassion dissolves, replaced by a cold, logical belief. A universe that does not follow order dies. This is the moment Tony Stark stops being Tony Stark and becomes Dr. Doom. Now that we understand how Robert Downey Jr. Tony variant becomes Dr. Doom, Part 3 focuses on what insiders are calling his new objective, one that reportedly becomes the central conflict of Avengers Doomsday. And according to early descriptions, Doom's goal isn't simple domination, revenge, or chaos. His objective is something far more terrifying and far more logical. Insider sources claim that RDJ's Doom believes a multiverse is fundamentally unsalvageable in its current state. The unlimited branching timelines, the constant divergence of choices, and the repeating patterns of hero-driven destruction all lead to one inevitable conclusion in his mind. Reality must be rewritten, not repaired. A leak from a supposed internal Marvel continuity guide describes Doom's mission as the multiversal restructuring plan. This plan reportedly involves merging surviving universes into a single controlled timeline, one that no longer branches, no longer fractures, and no longer collapses under the weight of infinite choices. In other words, Doom's objective is to create one perfect universe, overseen by him, enforced by his laws, and protected from the mistakes of free will. One insider wrote something chilling in their leak summary. Doom doesn't think he's destroying worlds. He thinks he's saving the final one. And the leaked descriptions of his strategy are even darker. According to a source who claimed to review early storyboards, Doom uses a combination of Stark-level technology and mystic energy to build what insiders are calling the Chronoforge, a massive, reality-bending engine capable of restructuring timelines. The technology supposedly draws inspiration from both Iron Man's nanotech and the dark magical forces Doom encountered after the incursion that destroyed his home universe. Leak notes indicate the Chronoforge has 3 phases. White Heavy Checkmark Phase 1. Eliminate unstable universes. Doom identifies branches that are statistically doomed to collapse and accelerates their destruction to prevent contagion across the multiverse. Think of him as pruning timelines, but without hesitation or remorse. White Heavy Checkmark Phase 2. Merge compatible universes. Insiders claim that Doom selects universes with similar historical patterns and forcibly merges them, creating hybrid realities. Early leaks mention that this process is described as agonizing, chaotic, and violently unstable. White Heavy Checkmark Phase 3. Establish the final universe. This is the ultimate goal. A single, unified universe governed by Doom, with no multiversal variants and no diverging possibilities. A universe without Wanda variants, without Loki variants, without Tony variants, without Kong variants, without anything that threatens cosmic stability. Insider leaks emphasize that Doom sees this not as tyranny but as salvation. And then there's the biggest twist of the leaks: why Doom becomes obsessed with this mission. A confidential scoop circulating among industry sources claims that Doom witnessed a universe where the Avengers defeated Thanos, where Tony Stark survived, where everything was perfect, and even that universe collapsed due to an incursion triggered by events completely unrelated to the Infinity Saga. That moment supposedly convinced him that heroism, sacrifice, and victory are temporary illusions. The multiverse doesn't reward heroes. It consumes them. This revelation marks the emotional breaking point of RDJ's Doom. According to a leak from someone who claims to have read an early Doomsday script treatment, Doom says, "If perfection cannot be found, it must be constructed." This line reportedly appears during a confrontation between Doom and a multiversal council of surviving heroes. If true, it's one of the strongest character-defining moments the MCU has ever created. But the leaks get even more intense. Some insiders claim Doom's plan is not only to create a final universe, but to resurrect specific individuals inside that final universe. Specifically, White Heavy Checkmark Pepper, White Heavy Checkmark Morgan, White Heavy Checkmark the Avengers he lost, White Heavy Checkmark, and even a version of himself that died in Endgame. This makes Doom's mission both tragic and terrifying. He's not a monster. He's a father, a husband, and a hero who lost everything, and who believes the only way to get it back is to remake existence itself. And according to the leaks, Avengers Doomsday is all about stopping him. Not because his plan is evil, but because he might actually succeed. With Doom's multiversal restructuring plan now fully exposed, Part 4 focuses on the final and most shocking leaks, the ones that insiders believe outline the actual climax of Avengers Doomsday, and the confrontation that could redefine Robert Downey Jr.'s place in the MCU forever. According to leaked descriptions that supposedly come from early third-act storyboards, the Avengers don't simply fight Doom. They chase him across collapsing realities as he initiates the final activation of the Chronoforge. Multiple insiders claim that the film's climax involves Doom beginning Phase 3 of his master plan, merging the last surviving universes into one eternal timeline. And as this happens, the skies tear open, realities overlap, familiar landscapes blend into each other, and physics itself begins to fail. One leak describes a haunting visual: the ruins of New York from 3 different universes merging into a single impossible cityscape. And right at the center of this chaos stands Doom, RDJ's Doom, calm, unwavering, and convinced that this devastation is a necessary final step before order. Another insider claims that Doctor Strange, Captain Marvel, and a surviving Loki variant play major roles in confronting Doom's plan. But the real emotional clash is rumored to come from characters who once loved and trusted Tony Stark. Early dialogue leaks hint at a devastating exchange between Doom and the Avengers, where a surviving version of Peter Parker confronts him, pleading with him to stop. One rumored line from Doom: "I saved the world once. It wasn't enough. Now I save all worlds my way." But the leak that shocked fans most involves the Tony Stark from Earth 616, the Tony who died in Endgame. according to private insider threads. The final act includes a scene where Doom comes face-to-face with a holographic or memory-preserved version of the original Tony Stark. This is not a resurrection, not a return, but a psychological echo, a reflection of who he used to be. And this moment, insiders claim, is the emotional core of the entire film. The original Tony tries to reach the humanity buried underneath the mask, telling him, if you control everything you save, nothing. But the leaked reports state that Doom rejects this final plea. He has gone too far. He has lost too much. And he refuses to turn back. This sets up the rumored final battle. Not a typical Avengers fight, but a desperate attempt to stop Doom from completing the Chronoforge. Several leaks describe the sequence as reality-breaking, visually overwhelming, and the most ambitious action set-piece Marvel has ever attempted. And here comes the biggest spoiler from the leaks. White heavy checkmark, the Avengers don't fully defeat Doom. White heavy checkmark, they only delay him. White heavy checkmark, and the Chronoforge partially activates. According to insiders, the film ends not with victory, but with the multiverse reshaped in unpredictable ways. Some universes fuse, some heroes vanish, some variants combine, and Doom, RDJ's Doom, survives the collapse, emerging into a new, unknown reality where he can continue what he started. One insider summed it up like this: Avengers Doomsday doesn't end the multiverse. It resets the board. RDJ's Doom isn't a one-movie villain. He's the next cosmic threat, the next Thanos-level figure, a villain shaped by tragedy, but driven by purpose. And if these leaks are true, Marvel is setting him up not just for Avengers Doomsday, but for the story that comes after, a saga built on fear, control, and the question that would define the future of the MCU. What if the most dangerous villain was once its greatest hero? This is the rise of Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom. And if everything we've heard so far is real, the MCU is about to change forever. I'm Mr. Pictures, and I'll see you in our next leak.